All right, welcome everyone. We are now live and we are here with the Esports Trade Association, the Education Committee LinkedIn Live. And today I am joined with a special group of expertise in the esports space. So again, just wanted to say hello and let you all know that you're watching. Please share with us in the comment section where you are tuning in from today as we get started. And I'm just going to ask Lindsay if you would pull up our presentation to get started today. So again, welcome to the Esports Trade Association Education Committee LinkedIn Live. And today I am joined with several colleagues that are really setting the precedents in the esports space when it comes to building diversity, equity, and inclusion in esports communities. And today we're here to talk about a couple of things, but what's really unique about the esports space is since we are really in the nascency stages of esports in the United States as an industry and it being a growing field of academic study, it really provides us with a unique opportunity to shape its growth and intentionally position activities to build diversity, equity, and inclusion within the education system. And today, our panel is going to provide members of ESTA with a couple of different perspectives that surround DE&I and esports. So our 5-member panel today is going to share with you several perspectives from the current state of esports and to it being a developing field of academic study through the esports ecosystem, curriculum, student programs, and then, of course, entrepreneurship. And then towards the end, we'll also open it up to allow some overall discussion and best practices. So the first thing I would like to do is just have each individual in our panel today to please do a brief introduction. And I'll just start off. Noelle Kershon-Naylor, I am the program chair and associate professor of esports management for Stockton University. And I'd like to pass it to my next colleague.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Jennifer Ahrens. I'm a faculty member at Stockton University working with Noelle and the rest of the team here. I'm in the Hospitality, Tourism, and Event Management program, but also a part of our newly launched Bachelor of Science in Esports Management program.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Dobrev, and I am an assistant professor in finance. And if you're wondering how am I related to this program, so I was involved with the creation of the esports management degree at Stockton.
My name is Dr. Monica Amadio. I am a faculty member at Stockton also, and I work in the School of Business. I teach management, technology, and innovation management, and entrepreneurship are my areas of focus.
Hey everyone, my name is Demetrius Rubos. I'm the Information Security Officer at Stockton University, and I helped to launch the student esports program here at Stockton around 5 years ago. And I'm seeing a lot of comments come through, so shout outs to everybody in the comments. What's up? Nice to see you all here, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much to my colleagues. And as you're going to see throughout what we're talking about today is that esports is just so interdisciplinary. And what we have seen is that esports has really provided individuals the ability to connect, engage, and really build these unique communities in several different spaces, both the digital and physical spaces. And we have the potential to make sure that these really form as inclusive environments. And even from the earliest stages of the development of esports, we've really seen that esports has the potential to provide opportunities for interaction, bonding, and even building social capital. However, what we've seen is that access and inclusivity and diversity within the competitive esports space is reminiscent of some of our U.S. traditional sports that has been characterized predominantly as male, with women and girls representing a lower proportion of participants. And so as we start to see the ecosystem continue to mature, it's being embedded with cultures and traditions and practices that are associated with competitive play, online toxicity, and gender discrimination. We all have a role to make sure that it's addressed. And how do we want to really make sure as we build these communities that they are fully supportive of DE&I? So we're going to start out today's panel to really get us kicked off with addressing something that is often misunderstood within the esports industry. So I'm going to start with Dr. Ahrens and ask if she can share with us really what makes up this esports ecosystem. If you can share some insights, please.
Hi, everybody. Yep, sorry, I had to unmute myself there. But yeah, really excited to share this presentation with everybody and give all of our viewers some insight as to our journey in the development of our Bachelor's of Science in Esports Management at Stockton University. And, many of you may be aware of this, but it all does start out with what is the ecosystem of esports? As we know, esports is all about online competitive video gaming, but there are so many aspects of this, whether it's a professional setting or it's a tournament setting. But unlike traditional sports, the esports ecosystem is really much more complex and multifaceted, and has its own set of stakeholders, such as the game publishers. We also work with the league organizations as well as different esports organizations. We have to be involved with the viewing opportunities of esports, whether it's online, it's a hybrid event, it's television, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, we have our advertisers and our sponsors. So what we see is that this global ecosystem is really filled with tens of thousands of professionals spanning all of these different areas. And while a lot of these jobs are in the field of IT or gaming development, there are hundreds of jobs in the management and event management fields, such as event assistants, regional gaming events managers, community and venue managers. There's also jobs in marketing, social media, advertising, brand management. So what we have found as we were going through this process developing our program is that the greatest growth really is in the management of esports teams and tournaments, both in person and online. So because of this, the proposal that we developed, which was subsequently approved by the Department of Education in the state of New Jersey, we focus our program on the creation and management of esports events. But because it's housed within the School of Business, our students get a really strong business core. So what you can see here on this slide, this is actually a description of all of the related professions in esports, created by a gentleman by the name of Nico Bessomes. I may have messed up his name, so I apologize. But he is the Associate Professor of Sports Psychology in the University of Paris. And he put this together really to demonstrate all of the related esports professions to help colleges, universities, and other schools to identify the professions that they can focus on. And then that will lead those organizations to develop the appropriate educational content and relevant needs that we have for the program. So he really created 10 categories. From here, there are several different careers, and those 10 categories are communication, information and technology, events organization, media, performance optimization, entertainment, education, administration, business, and sales and marketing. So as I said earlier, what we've done at Stockton University is we've really taken these professions, and because we are coming from a space of teaching the students how to manage the events, manage the teams, we're teaching them all of those skills, how to market, how to get sponsorships, how to manage social media and create these events, but also with a really strong business core.
Thank you, Jennifer. And so what we're seeing in this space, particularly as it relates to the ecosystem, and it really is offering the next generation of workers an opportunity to use their understanding of technology, their ability to multitask, and their ability to process and analyze information strategically. And what we're seeing is that the esports ecosystem, it not only outlines these skill sets for these individual jobs or these segments, but it also really highlights the transferable skills across the ecosystem. And that's exactly what Dr. Ahrens was sharing in the approach that we've at least seen at our university and several others that are really coming about across the world. So as we start to think about this fast-paced growth that we're experiencing in the esports industry over the last several years has really prompted educators, both in the sense of K through 12, colleges and universities, to start offering programs within esports. And this is really to start to fill this dynamic pipeline. And in fact, what's interesting is that, there's really no consistency in what esports curriculum should look like. In fact, in the United States alone, there's different perspectives on that. As Dr. Ahrens shared, our philosophy and approach was to look at it within the, events management under hospitality and tourism perspective. And this really brings me to the next question that I'd like to, offer to my colleague, Petter, which is, can you share, how did you specifically approach creating an interdisciplinary esports curriculum within the higher education space?
Yes, sure. So as Noel said, when we first began to work on this and to do research on this, we quickly realized that there is no commonly agreed upon set of courses or set of core courses that would comprise this esports major. So if you compare this to fields as diverse as, psychology, history, accounting, these are majors and fields that have existed for decades. And so if you look at, what a program in accounting typically consists of between different universities, you will see that it is very, very similar. With esports, that is not the case. And so that presents the first challenge. So how do you actually build a new program when there is no really agreement between different schools on what this program should look like? And this is where I think we have to go back to the basics and first ask the question, why do we want to create this program in the first place? And there's two reasons for that. First is to tap into the potential of a new emerging industry, which is the esports industry. And second is to provide our students with useful skills that they can apply and become competitive in the job market. And in that sense, we can identify three different pillars through which we can use to build a degree in esports. And the first one is to identify your institution's strengths within the realm of esports, as well as what you consider to be your comparative advantages as a school or a program. So to give you an example, and Noel already mentioned that, for Stockton, our focus was on our strength in hospitality and our proximity to Atlantic City and the casino industry, which provides us with a significant opportunity to host large-scale esports events in Atlantic City, which could also, in the long term, provide opportunities for our students in terms of internships. Second is to identify synergies with existing courses. Now, this is a new program, and regardless of the program, a new program is always going to contain a certain amount of risk. It is an investment that you hope is going to pay off. But when you're building this new program, you want to optimize the coursework while also reducing your potential startup costs. So when we started working on our program, we quickly realized that there were a lot of courses taught by other faculty in other programs, which we could use to an extent or fully in incorporating and incorporate them into our program, in addition to developing our own esports specific courses. And so the first two steps would bring you to the creation of a new curriculum and therefore eventually go through the approval process and create a new program. And so at Stockton, we inaugurated our esports management degree this fall, which brings us to the third step, which is the step that we're currently in, which involves the long-term management of this program. So we need to have a plan on where we want this program to go, how we want to grow this program. And that is, in fact, the hardest step in this process. And lastly, also just to talk about DEI. Now, esports as a field we like to use the term organically diverse because it naturally brings people together regardless of background. Because what you really care about is whether somebody else enjoys the same game as you, for instance. And that is really what brings people together. So in that sense, it is organically diverse. However, one area that needs to be worked on is gender, in the sense that esports is still kind of predominantly seen as a male sport, and programs and institutions have to do more work to make it more inclusive to female students. And that is kind of a brief summary of our approach on developing a esports curriculum.
Thank you, Petter. And I think you highlighted some really important considerations for those that are joining us today, which is the organic diversity that happens. And even from a curriculum perspective, we're seeing that it's diverse because it's just so highly interdisciplinary in nature. And that really can pose us with significant opportunities as well as challenges. But we're having the opportunity to leverage those on each unique institutional basis. And, with some of the growing popularity inside the esports space and really trying to legitimize it as a valid field of academic study, there are going to be various opportunities that institutions are going to have to prove that case. And I think this brings us to the next point that I'd like Demetrius to comment on, which is, what are some of the challenges that we've experienced even in developing, an esports students, club and competitive club, all the way getting us into programming.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences in developing the esports program here at Stockton. Specifically, I'm really on the student side of things, right? I work with the students on both their competitive and their community aspects. I'm currently completing my EDD in organizational leadership and studying the connection between talent development and leadership through esports. So it's been quite a journey, and like any significant journey, it's come with its fair share of challenges. So we initially started our esports program here at Stockton in 2018, and we did that by building, or should I say renovating, an existing computer lab on campus to foster our competitive community. So one of the first challenges that we encountered was overcoming the skepticism surrounding esports as a legitimate program within the academic institution. And I'm not just talking about academically speaking, I'm talking about generally. Now, granted, things have come a long way in 5 years, but 5 years ago, that wasn't necessarily an easy thing to sell. So there was this misconception that esports was solely about playing games and didn't offer the same educational value as traditional sports. So to address this, we had to work diligently to convince people. And most importantly, we had to get buy-in from the students, which this was a student-led initiative. So we had, let's say 8 students that came out initially and said, hey, we want this. And 8 turned into 40, and then 40 turned into a couple hundred, right? So, I think that one of the keys to developing it is to build a coalition of individuals that are not only passionate about it, but interested in seeing it grow and succeed. So esports, like many other fields, has faced issues of underrepresentation, right? So it was crucial for us to create an environment where students from all backgrounds felt welcomed and supported. And we actively seek strategies to encourage participation from underrepresented groups. Typically, we do this through innovative programming, right? So we'll host a 24-hour live stream, or we'll host an inclusive leadership podcast. We'll do things to spur innovation within the group and get them talking amongst each other. So as the program gained traction, the natural evolution was to integrate it into the academic offerings. However, this transition presented its own set of challenges, right? So we had to navigate the complexities of curriculum development, like Pitar was talking about, and ensuring that the courses were academically rigorous. Now, luckily, Stockton has a breadth of business-oriented courses that we were able to plug into that curriculum, which helped us along the way, because we're essentially creating a degree that is both a business degree and also an esports degree, so esports management. And it's a wonderful thing, right? So we, as one of our challenges, had to address issues of legitimacy, right? So esports programs are relatively new. There's a need to establish credibility. So one of the things that we did was emphasize scholarly aspects of esports, including the potential for conducting research. That's kind of where my EDD comes in, right? And then showcasing other career opportunities and offering internships for our students. So to give you a quick conclusion here, my journey in developing the competitive program and more broadly the community that backs that was a really important part of the process. And then building that coalition of students, I think, is really what sold it to the administration, to make them understand that this is a culturally pervasive phenomenon, that it does in fact drive organic diversity. That's one of my favorite things about it, right? I could probably talk endlessly about that. And just generally speaking, it's a great way for accessibility and inclusivity to permeate the student organization. So that's all I got for now.
Thank you so much, Demetrius. And I think you really led it up to, the next question where I want to take our conversation, which is, we've heard a couple of words used thus far in this session. We've heard, this journey. We've heard about the risk. We've heard about this, organic diversity that is happening. And then we're hearing about these opportunities and how do we really focus on DE&I in, traditional spaces where we might see that it's manifested in different ways. And, as we look at esports right now, it is truly, forecasted to reach a global market of about $3 billion. And that was forecasted for 2023 alone. So as we start to see this industry continue to evolve and new opportunities to emerge, there are some things that are out there that have the potential to really revolutionize the way that we see esports, the way that we build programming around esports. And that is through the lens of entrepreneurship. And this is where I'd like to take it over to my colleague, Monica, to really start talking and share with us some of her insights into this idea of innovation management, and to share with us a little bit as to, what is the connection between entrepreneurship and esports and this value of diversity.
Thank you, Noelle. And for, everyone joining the call, we really appreciate you. We can see all the posts where you're from, and we value that you're taking the time to join and talk about this important subject. We love the idea of the combination of esports and entrepreneurship. There's a lot of overlap between the strategies that build successful businesses and obviously the strategies that build successful businesses in esports: marketing, promotion, finance. There's the research also tells us that this market, as we all know, is growing to be enormous. Noelle mentioned $3 billion. And honestly, that could be conservative on a lot of levels. Entrepreneurs need a cohesive understanding of how best to monetize their efforts within the esports ecosystem in order to engage audiences, maximize profits, and create sustainable growth opportunities. Many alignments exist between esports and that of professional sports teams. So Jennifer had mentioned the tournaments, the events, the leagues, teams, players. Players have contracts, some team owners, fans, sponsors, and the like. And that's well documented in the research also. By leveraging technology, so this is my real bailiwick there, is leveraging that technology in streaming platforms and virtual reality and gaming environments, and businesses creates greater exposure for products and services while connecting with new audiences that may not have previously considered, they may not have been viable customers. With this knowledge at hand, any organization considering entering this rapidly growing field can do better by partnering with the esports community. I have a couple of other points that I wanted to share with you regarding DEI as it relates to esports and entrepreneurship overlap. I feel like there are a number of ways that it connects, and if I could list them quickly, it's broad audience appeal. So reaching this global audience with a vast range of backgrounds, innovation. So looking for a variety of ideas through diversity. So bringing a bunch of different perspectives together creates a real melting pot and opportunity for innovation that isn't available otherwise. Inclusive game design. So looking for characters and platforms and experiences that resonate with diverse audiences, with a broader range of audiences. Looking for different ethnicities, genders, backgrounds, and considering diverse ways that people engage with games. Global market entry, I would say looking at esports as a global phenomenon and tapping insights of people from different geographic backgrounds. Crisis management. So like any business, esports will face some level of crisis at some point. So communicating to diverse audiences and also identifying different ways to handle situations depending on where in the world they are happening is really valuable. Authentic engagement, which we call organic diversity, is just incredibly valuable. And I love, again, like Demetria said, the organic diversity that esports brings. And talent recruitment, finally, attracting talent of many professionals eager to work in inclusive environments is a benefit to esports and to the greater business population in general. In summary, the world of esports entrepreneurship diversity isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's a strategic advantage and one that's critical to enrich the industry, leading better products and creating more inclusive experiences and offering a broader reach to many different types of businesses.
So, Monica, one of the things that really stands out for me as you were just sharing some of your perspectives and the connections between, entrepreneurship and esports is this ability to really connect innovation in with creating these experiences that resonate with, a diverse audience. And that really brings me and makes me want to shift our conversation from talking about the academic and business side of esports to really, focus in a little more on the competitive side of esports. I think it's really important, particularly when we started off our conversation today, we talked about, some of the numbers when it comes to, men and women in this competitive space. And what I'd like to see, and pass this to Demetrius again, is to maybe share some of the specific DE&I strategies that we're leveraging right now when it comes to our student organizations and our competitive leagues.
Yeah, thank you, Noelle. Excellent question. So you might be asking yourself, folks in the audience, right? You might be asking, how do you connect esports with DEI, right? What's the connection there? How do you build a community and that sort of thing? So what I would tell you is with Stockton Esports, what we've done is we've built an esports program that really has 4 pillars, at least on the student-centric side, right? The 4 pillars are competitive, community, accessibility and inclusivity, and then experiential learning, right? So those 4 things really come together to foster DEI in esports. So on the competitive side, you really have, it's akin to traditional sports, but it's done online, right? So pretty much all the same things apply, all the same pitfalls apply too, right? You're still dealing with social interactions between students and that sort of thing. So a robust competitive community helps in a lot of the same ways that a traditional sports might help, right? And then from a community aspect of it, you have the sort of community events, people that are esports adjacent, which basically means that they probably don't want to compete on a team, but they are interested in gaming. They watch streamers online, right? Their friends are into it, that sort of thing. So we do specific programming for these students that aren't necessarily trying to compete, but they're interested in it, right? And they want to hang out and that kind of stuff. So the community is a really important aspect of it. Then as far as the inclusivity is concerned, esports is a platform that promotes accessibility. It's certainly more accessible than traditional sports is, right? So I would say that from an accessibility perspective and equity perspective, esports is really awesome. And if you were to provide facilities, let's say on your campus, to provide access so that students don't have to buy their own hardware and that kind of stuff, that's even better. From an inclusivity perspective, there's also inclusive leadership, right? So what we do is we develop our students to lead the student program, right? And those leaders are really tasked with executing on the competitive side, executing on the community side. We stratify our leadership, right? We use distributed aspirational leadership, let the kids do what they're good at, what they love, and they become better at it. Finally, on the experiential learning end, we leverage things like those community events I talked about to provide learning opportunities for our students. So in other words, we tell the students, hey, we want to build a mini dream hack here at Stockton, execute on it, right? So they have to learn a lot in order to do that, and then they can experience it as they do it, which is really powerful for them. So we have this saying now at Stockton Esports. We just adopted it, but I like it. It's called Be the Spark, right? And what does that mean? The spark is sportsmanship, passion, adaptability, respect, and knowledge. And we feel like with those 5 things, we can represent the core values of Stockton Esports and also reflect the essence of the program, right? So in our experience at Stockton, we found that fostering DEI initiatives in esports is most effectively achieved through the holistic student-centric approach, right? So instead of approaching it through the curriculum, which the curriculum already has unique and interesting DEI stuff in it, but we try to do this at the student level, right? Get the students involved so that DEI extends beyond the classroom, right? And one of the things that I would tell you, right, is if you're an educational institution that has a significant student population, let's say an Asian student population, for example, right, you might create activities or events that highlight Asian culture and then try to cross that over with an esports event. So I'll give you an example. We do a Halloween party every year, right? And as part of the Halloween party, we try to partner with our theater club and our horror society here on campus. So essentially what I would recommend is build partnerships with esports and other organizations on campus, in particular because gaming and gamer culture is so pervasive that you're going to find inroads into all these other sub-communities within your campus. So I would say that operating an esports program intrinsically offers opportunities for experiential learning through the development of innovative events and other programming. You can develop students who are interested in broadcast engineering, tournament administration, commentary, analysis, production, and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of cool opportunities to develop transferable skills. And to the point that Dr. Amadio made before about entrepreneurship in esports, there's a whole ecosystem of streamers out there and content creators that aren't necessarily esports, right? But they're essentially using the same tools, technology, techniques that an esports streamer would have, right? So if I wanted to be the next Breaking Points or something like that, right, I would fundamentally be using the same technology that's used for esports streaming. So I think it's important to note that there is transferable skills there. So just a quick recap here. If I were to give you some bullet points, I would say, think about launching your program if you haven't already, right? So if you don't have an esports program yet, launch it, right? If you do launch it, I would tell you to get buy-in from IT. If you don't have any IT leadership involved in your esports program, I would tell you to do that, right? I represent IT on our campus, and it's good that we're involved because we can help with the technology end of things. Another aspect of it is the overcoming of the stereotypes, right? Sometimes you have to convince people that esports is good for you. So like I said before, build a broad coalition of students to help you with that. And when you do that, you're going to find that they're likely going to be a fairly diverse audience. So that should help you on the diversity and inclusion end. Academic integration. If you're going to launch an esports program, it sort of makes sense to have some integration with an academic program. If not specifically an esports program, maybe a communication program or something that's aligned or adjacent. Other than that, let me see here. Community building, right? Host innovative events. You definitely want to have events and stuff like that going on. And a commitment to DEI, right? Make sure that you're accessible and inclusive and that people want to be a part of it. And I'd say that you're in pretty good shape.
So Demetrius, I have to say, I absolutely love Be the Spark. And, I think what that stands for is, not only so much as to what that acronym stands for, but just so much that we're all so committed to really making sure that we are building these inclusive communities. And there's a variety of different reasons that justify that. And I think, as we come towards, our ending of this, and we do want to allow time for Q&A, to anybody that's joining us today, is for everyone just to maybe share a little bit more and take a deeper dive into what are some of the specific activities that you're engaged in that is really trying to drive, and create greater access to equity relative to esports. And, for example, I can say that, as far as my role and chairing the program is to make sure that, we are at the table to help contribute to some of the decisions and the policies and the practices that surround what these inclusive communities look like, and making sure that we have those tough conversations in this space. As well as all the spaces that are challenged with DEI issues. So I'll pass it over if we can just kind of go around, Jennifer, if you want to share any activities that you're currently working on.
Sure, Noelle, thanks. Just briefly, a couple of things that we're doing with Stockton is we're really trying to partner with our local high schools. So I've been a guest speaker at high schools talking about our esports program. We've actually invited a couple of high schools to come to do tours of our esports space. And we're looking at, doing more of those tour opportunities and inviting the students in so they can see the space and, hopefully answer some questions when their parents are asking them, why do you want to major in esports? Petter, you want to share with us some things?
Yeah, so even though I'm probably kind of the furthest away in terms of field from esports, I've also kind of remained involved with the marketing of our program. So just last week, we had a big event called Esports, Fall Esports at Stockton, which was organized by Demetrius, who did a great job. And we had a significant attendance, I think in excess of, close to 200 people. Back in May, we hosted another event from Garden State Esports, which is a New Jersey esports-based organization. And so we use those events to promote our program and market it and just talk to students. And that's how I am kind of involved in this process, even though in terms of field, I'm probably the most kind of farthest away from it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot still be involved in some way, shape, or form in promoting this program.
Monica, I know you've done some work on the dual credit side. I don't know if you want to share any examples or what you have going on in that space.
Sure. So if I could also circle back to how entrepreneurship has supported esports. So the event that Petter mentioned that we just did last week, the Fall Esports event, was really well set up and it looked terrific. So I brought my 60 students or so from our entrepreneurship class down directly to participate in that event, whether they were interested in gaming or not, just to get perspectives and talk about all of the opportunities that connect with esports and overlap with a business that they may be in or may be interested in pursuing. So it touches so many different fields, including technology and even electricity, and there are a lot of different potential connection points for people that want to be in business and support the esports community. That was number one, and bringing our class there. Secondly is developing courses that support our esports students and offer some business education to them. Even though it is in the business school, we are working on creating a line of courses that would supplement esports specifically as entrepreneurs. And finally, the dual enrollment, connecting with those high schools locally in the county and in the area, in the state, and in the whole region that would offer small business and entrepreneurship courses and would want to partner with Stockton to offer the credit while the students are in high school.
Thank you, Monica. And Demetrius, I know you mentioned a little bit. I don't know if you want to share anything else about some of the activities that you do relative to, our streaming. events?
Sure, yeah. So we do a lot of live streaming. We do it on Twitch predominantly, and it's mostly competitive streams. So if we play against another college or university, and assuming we're allowed to, we'll stream it out on our Twitch channel. And we use the renovated lab space. So I mentioned that in 2018 we renovated a computer lab. Uh, we have since basically converted that entire building to an esports building on campus where there are 2 computer labs and then also an office in there that we use for streaming. And it really works out well because we sort of have our production team in the one computer lab, we have our competitive players in the other computer lab, and then we have our commentators and analysts in that office. So just from a distributed workforce perspective, it works really well. That model actually also worked really well during COVID when everybody was decentralized and just online. We still managed to do all of our productions with a decentralized workforce because essentially all happens online. We utilize a program called vMix, which probably many of you are familiar with, and it works really, really well for building, esports programming and live streaming your competitive sessions. So with that being said, though, there are some interesting upcoming events for us at Stockton, including the Minecraft Hunger Games, which is coming up on October 17th. And then additionally, we're going to be doing a retro night, and that's going to happen online. So those 2 events are slated to take place online. We recently did a 24-hour live stream as well. So yeah, generally speaking, we like to do things online. It does bring in sort of a different audience, right? So our in-person events, it's predominantly Stockton students that tune in, whereas our online events, we sort of span the spectrum, and those include folks like alumni, right, who still tune in to see those broadcasts and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting to see what's going on online. But I'd say that's a major place to develop. If you want to develop some interesting programming, you can pretty much launch those streams on a skeleton crew.
Thank you so much for everyone today in this panel for sharing some of your insights and expertise relative to Stockton, really trying to develop, programming around esports with a specific focus to really embrace, promote, and purposely craft everything that we do around the DEI space. So what I'd like to say to everyone that joined us today, again, is to thank you for your time so much. All of our contact information is here. Stockton wants to be active in this space and leverage and support any of our partners through the Esports Trade Association. And, if there are insights or partnership opportunities, we would love to explore those, with anybody that might be joining today, as well as helping to push forward and change the narrative surrounding esports, which is it's more than just playing games. It's an entire ecosystem where students from a variety of ages, race, ethnicities can come together in an inclusive space and really develop many of the things that are necessary to be successful today. So with that, we'd like to open up to any additional comments. If you have a comment, to type it in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer any of those and take some of your questions. But again, we do want to thank you because this is brought to you today by the Educational Committee of the Esports Trade Association with the topic of building diversity, equity, and inclusion, and continuing this important conversation as we all move forward. Additionally, just as we're waiting for any questions to possibly come in, make sure, if you haven't already done so, to check out the Esports Leadership Program. This is an opportunity for you to refine your leadership skills in various areas of esports. And you can simply do that by signing up and joining a chapter or a committee. So for example, we're located in the state of New Jersey. We're actually launching our esports official ESTA kickoff this Friday. So please make sure that you have an opportunity to check that out. Additionally, if you want to see what some of our students are doing at Stockton, please check us out online. You can find us at esports.stockton. That's STOCKTON.edu. And you can see our student leaders directly in action. And that event that we talked about, there were about 350 total attendees. So I'll just open it up if there are any other questions that we have coming up. And you can also visit the calendar on the ESTA website as well. And I'll invite if Lindsay from the ESTA Trade Association wants to come back on with all of us here, just to say any final words or anything on behalf of ESTA. Heath, I just see your question coming to the comment section. If you want to just type in a question, we can read it on our prompter.
Yeah, folks, if you have questions, don't be shy. Just type them in the comment box there.
So if
Please go ahead, Monica.
I have maybe a question or topic. So we were talking about the idea, and someone, I think Gina had posted a comment about accessibility and disability and inclusivity. And I think that's another fascinating topic and way for esports to be absolutely inclusive. And again, back to that innovation piece and how all of this um, drives that innovation, the collaborative effort in a way to level the playing field and make things more, just opens it up, makes it more accessible for everyone, and does really foster that organic diversity ecosystem is just fantastic. I applaud all the effort that goes into to the design of those tools.
We do have a couple questions here. It looks like Stavros, my fellow Greek, says, "What does it look like to be a corporate sponsor?" Are you asking if what does it look like for the university to accept a corporate sponsorship? Is that what you're getting at, or?
And this is actually my good friend that I had a chance to meet at the ESTA Next Gen conference this year. So knowing that he is an entrepreneur in this space and has some amazing technology coming, I would say that, to get clarity, as Demetrius said, if you want to type that in the comment section, but most of the time, depending if you're in a public or private entity, there is a structure for sponsorship. One of the things that we believe in at Stockton is a mutually beneficial relationship. Which means that we are here to promote our partners as well, whether that's from, providing, distinctive, students to work as far as internships or graduates, helping to market at different programs in that capacity. So if anybody is interested, we're always looking for sponsorship opportunities in this space. And typically because public institutions don't necessarily get a high level of allocation, particularly in the current economy, it's a little difficult. So we're always welcome to that. And of course, a lot of the things that we're trying to do are build these relationships so we can pull in experts from a variety of different areas. So thank you at least for that comment. So Demetrius, I don't know if this is a question you might be able to just comment on, which is how important is a varsity component when attempting to attract students to esports?
Yeah, I would say that there's been a shift in the trend regarding higher education and their approach to esports and attracting students. So like recruitment and retention is top of mind for any higher education administrator, right? Like you ask them what they're thinking about, and 9 out of 10 times that's what they're thinking about, right? So how important is the varsity aspect of it? I would say it's pretty important. I guess one thing that I would say is what we're seeing in terms of that trend shift is that more and more schools are willing to offer scholarships for players to play on their esports teams, right? So what that effectively means, though, is the pipeline from K to 12 student to professional esport athlete doesn't look like the traditional path for most sports. So in other words, like, if you play football, for example, you play Pop Warner, you eventually play in high school, right? You go on, you play some college ball, and then maybe make it to the NFL or something, right? In esports, it doesn't look like that, right? You're a pro player by the time you're 16 years old, okay? And you're washed out by the time you're 25, basically. So the whole way that works from the perspective of a student is they're already at the top of their pro play before they're even ready to go to college. So by the time college happens for them, they want a compelling offer because they're already considered a pro at that point. So what some schools have done, though, is offer full rides, for example, to players that are on that caliber. And essentially what it's done is it's propelled those schools to the forefront of the competitive ecosystem, right? Now, we could argue about the ethics of that probably all day, but generally speaking, that's what's happening, okay? And there is no NCAA of esports that stepped in and said, do X, Y, or Z. Right. So we're in this sort of pioneering time. We're in the first 5 or 10 years of real sort of competitive esports in the collegiate scene. So to answer your question, it's important if you care about it. Right. So the fact is that you don't need to have a competitive esports program that is varsity and is top of the world in order to have a fun event with students and gaming and build a community. Right. You don't need that. So, I think that putting competitive first isn't necessarily the way to go. If I had to pick one, I would pick community because it serves a broader audience. But the competitive aspect makes sense, but it's akin to collegiate athletics in a very unregulated way, right? So hopefully that helps a little bit. I would say that it's still the Wild West. And, in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see some esports governance emerge and things like that. But right now, it's a very odd time for collegiate esports.
And Demetrius, I think that takes us to the next question, which I'll open up to my colleagues, which is, are there any resources available to educators to find out what esports programs publishers have established? So when it comes to this idea of governance and curriculum packages, you are going to find these popping up everywhere, but there's no real authority or I'll say accreditation system that currently exists. I mean, you'll find products in the international market like Pearson has a fully developed curriculum, Horizon AVL, USA Academic Reports, SHI. In our state, we have Garden State Esports that are K through 12 educators that are putting together curriculum. So there's really not one uniform entity or standard or level of accreditation in this space. So it does make it difficult, on top of the fact that, institutions of higher ed particularly are taking this from multiple vantage points, whether it's a curriculum that's rooted in computer sciences, game design, like ours, which is more, event-based. So there is some variety there. So that's really a hard one to kind of lock down at the current state and time outside of individual benchmarking, which is what we did. We looked at, university curriculum around 25, 26 different competitors in our market space. And I don't know if my colleagues have any other comments on that.
I can add that in the 2 esports classes that I'm teaching this semester, there are 2 books that I have found, 2 textbooks that have not only some good information for students in the program, but also offer some instructor support. And one of them is called Esports Business Management. And that's published by the Human Kinetics organization. So if someone's looking for a textbook, that one's pretty good. It provides a really good overall view of the esports industry. And there is another textbook that I started looking at regarding the esports law and regulations in esports. That one, I believe, is published by, I think it's, I'm drawing a blank on who exactly it's published by. I'm trying to pull it up right now on my computer, but there's a couple of books out there that are available. Sorry, I just found it. It's called The Essential Guide to the Business and Law of Esports and Professional Video Gaming. Kind of a long title there, but that's another book. So there are some books with some instructor support coming out, hopefully to see more in the future.
And Jennifer, if I can add, I see that in the chat, Michaela has a couple of, comments about, at a state level development. We're highly engaged at a state level in New Jersey. We sit on these different task force and curriculum committees, particularly for career clusters and trying to even think at a state level, where does this sit? We're also partnering with one of our state leagues to understand what a 3-course sequence would look like. So yes, there's a lot of development at state levels, but again, that is going to vary by state to state. In the K through 12 space, it's going to vary based on the Board of Education and their perspectives. As a strategy for all of us, we have the New Jersey Teachers Association annual meeting coming up. We're going to be there. We're trying to get ahead to really help educators in the K through 12 space understand the narrative surrounding esports to try to garner greater support as we move forward. So we have about last 5 minutes. I'll just open up to see if there were any other comments that came through. I think there was one I recall about, yes, what support systems do we offer for our students that are from marginalized communities? So I don't know who'd like to take this one first.
I'd be happy to talk to it. So the program here on campus, as far as esports is concerned, what we've tried to do is we've tried to diversify our leaders so that we don't just have one person that oversees competitive and one person that oversees community. We try to add depth in those leaders so that if somebody feels like they're being either marginalized, ignored, gate kept, whatever their concern is, right? We understand that we exist in a social construct here and there are people in this program. So people, sometimes they don't get along and that sort of thing. So what we've done is we've added depth to our leadership team so that people within the community feel like they have a person they can go to. And if they don't like this one person, they can go talk to somebody else, right? So that's one of the ways that we've addressed that in sort of a microcosm. But more broadly, the university has this thing called the CARE program here, and it's really a holistic approach to, the well-being of students here on campus. So that includes, our dean of students. It includes our student affairs officials here on campus, the folks from residential life, you name it. I mean, it's a broad coalition of divisions on campus that come together to support the well-being of the students. And there are many inputs into that system. Some of them are automatic data points that get entered, and others are manual processes. Like, for example, I can put in a care referral for a student if I think a student is having a hard time, right? So it's systems like that help to retain the students and enrich them. So that's what I would go with.
So thank you with that. And if I can just add our final comments as we wrap up here today, again, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. If you type in esports or entrepreneurship at Stockton, any of us will come up. And, the last thing I will leave you with, to the question about marginalized students is it's also a culture of your institution. So it's beyond your esports program. At Stockton, we have a true vested interest and commitment to DE&I, even through activities like our multicultural center. We want to make sure that every student voice is heard and every student has a safe space. So, as we leave you today, I would just say that, in developing this space with the lens of DE&I in there, you have to think about the infrastructure and what you're building around it and how are we going to sustain this as we're going to come up and face things that we're not even prepared yet for. So I want to thank my colleagues here today because they're quite modest, because they have truly made a significant impact within our student community to bring programming that is innovative, creative, and above all, builds them to take on leadership roles in many capacities inside the ecosystem of esports and beyond within the business world. So thank you, everyone. Please don't forget, if you want to learn more about joining the Esports Trade Association as a member, we have lots of opportunities, whether it is the ESTA or a local chapter. Please make sure you check out the website. And we want to thank all of you for your time today, and happy gaming going forward.